Today, a delayed FDA filing for neratinib in breast cancer, a new head and neck cancer survivorship guideline, the halting of a potential PSA screening penalty, in addition to the NCCN Pancreatic Cancer Guideline, and the announcement of ASCO's new CEO. Welcome to Enclave News Network. I'm Gina Columbus. Based on recent meetings with the FDA, Puma Biotechnology announced that it is delaying submission until mid-2016 of its new drug application for neratinib for the extended adjuvant treatment of HER2-positive early-stage breast cancer after treatment with a trastuzumab-containing regimen. The company's previous filing timeline for the oral pan-HER TKI had been the first quarter of 2016. The Phase 3 extant study demonstrated that treatment with neratinib immediately following adjuvant trastuzumab plus chemotherapy improved invasive disease-free survival versus placebo. However, almost all patients receiving neratinib had diarrhea of various grades. A subsequent Phase 2 study showed that prophylactic loperamide reduced the incidence and severity of treatment-related diarrhea among patients receiving neratinib. Puma discussed the extant and Phase 2 follow-up data in its recent communications with the FDA regarding its NDA filing for neratinib. Following its review of this material, the FDA requested that Puma amend the current statistical analysis plan for the extant trial to incorporate the FDA's recommendations with regard to the rules for censoring the data for recurrent disease events or death. In its release on the delayed neratinib filing, Puma stated that the primary analysis results of the extant trial do not appear to be altered materially by the updated analysis approach that the FDA is requesting. A comprehensive clinical practice guideline focused on key areas of survivorship in head and neck cancer has been published by the National Cancer Survivorship Resource Center. The areas focus on surveillance for recurrence, screening or detection of secondary cancers, support, health promotion, and care coordination. Survivors of head and neck cancer are defined as a group of patients who face potentially significant physical, psychosocial, and practical effects from their disease and treatment. Those who created the guideline include experts in oncology, dentistry, nursing, speech pathology, and primary care. The new guideline marks the fourth in a series of survivorship care guidelines from the American Cancer Society. Others include guidelines for survivors of breast and prostate cancer, as well as recommendations for optimum nutrition and physical activity in survivorship. According to the American Cancer Society, head and neck cancer is predicted to account for 61,760 new cancer cases in the United States this year. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has temporarily suspended the development of a measure that would penalize physicians for using PSA-based screening that is not in accordance with recommendations by the United States Preventative Services Task Force. Currently, the organization recommends against routine screening. The decision comes following a public comment period where 58% of responses opposed the limitations on PSA screening. 40% disagreed with the task force's recommendations, which categorizes PSA screening as a grade D. Of the responses, 34% were personal stories and examples related to either PSA screening or cancer screening overall. The suspension could represent a turning point in the dialogue surrounding prostate cancer screening. The CMS is currently determining whether another PSA measure should be developed. In a statement, the CMS said, "As a result of public comment, CMS has temporarily suspended development of the draft measure non-recommended prostate-specific antigen-based screening. CMS will continue to solicit input from multiple stakeholders, including specialty societies, to determine whether a restructured appropriate use PSA measure should be developed. If CMS determines that a different measure should be developed, any new proposed measure would be sent to the Measures Application Partnership again for its review. CMS will continue to evaluate appropriate use measure concepts to address overuse and patient safety on prostate cancer screening, as well as additional measure gap areas." The report was filed to the CMS in January. The NCCN has added the combination of liposomal irinotecan, 5-FU, and leucovorin to its 2016 clinical practice guideline as a second-line treatment for patients with gemcitabine refractory metastatic pancreatic cancer. Second-line liposomal irinotecan was approved by the FDA in October 2015 for patients with pancreatic cancer following progression on a gemcitabine-based regimen. This is based on an analysis of the Phase 3 Napoli-1 trial. The most recent data from the analysis showed that the median overall survival with the triplet was 6.2 months versus 4.2 months with 5-FU and leucovorin alone. Median progression-free survival was 3.1 months with the triplet compared with 1.5 months in the control arm. This regimen received a Category 1 classification from the NCCN, which represents the highest level of evidence. Edward J. Stewart, head of commercial at Merrimack, said in a statement, "Onivyde is the only FDA-approved therapy available to patients whose disease has progressed after gemcitabine-based therapy, and more importantly, it addresses a critical unmet need in a patient population with very limited options. We believe these guidelines will further support the adoption of the Onivyde regimen as a standard of care in metastatic pancreatic cancer." Liposomal irinotecan is also being looked at in combination with cyclophosphamide in pediatric patients with solid tumors. Dr. Clifford Huddis of Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center has been named the new CEO of ASCO. Huddis replaces Dr. Alan Lichter, who held the position for 10 years. Huddis was the president of ASCO from 2013 to 2014 and has been a member of the organization since the early 1990s. In 2009, he joined the board of directors and has since held numerous other positions within the organization. He is known as one of the nation's leading specialists in breast cancer treatment and is a recognized expert in the field of cancer prevention. ASCO stated that Huddis was selected for the position based on his scientific and clinical research experience, as well as extensive experience in care, teaching, leadership, and administration. In a statement, Huddis said, "From my first meetings as a senior fellow in 1990 to my earliest opportunities to present data, sharing the stage with luminaries and earlier leaders in my field, to the ways ASCO allowed me to contribute to improvements in cancer care, I have been excited by the service that the Society offers its members and patients around the world. My passion for ASCO's mission is the reason I have dedicated so much of my professional life to the organization, and I'm thrilled to join the staff and volunteers as we enter an exciting new era in all aspects of cancer prevention and treatment." Huddis, who has been the chief of the Breast Medicine Service, vice president for government relations, and chief advocacy officer at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, will begin his new role as CEO on June 27, 2016. That's all for today. Thank you for watching Enclave News Network. I'm Gina Columbus.